Honkai Star Rail's endgame mode is hard, and has definitely been kicking our butts lately, but this character makes the hardest content seem like a walk in the park. Today we have the top 5 best teams for the Swarm Disaster with our new special guest, JINGLIU. Hey, what's up guys, I'm Kevju, and let's get straight to it with the first team on our list. Starting off with JINGLIU Destruction/Remembrance. This is the safest option if you want to clear the Swarm Disaster difficulty 5 with JINGLIU. The destruction path offers so much and synergizes really well with JINGLIU, giving her nice survivability alongside strong debuffs to the enemy. Onto the team, we are using Bronya, Pela, and Fushuan. Pela is here for some meaty defensive shreds, and Bronya is here for her fantastic synergy with JINGLIU, offering multiple turns and strong crit damage buffs. Fushuan is here to upgrade the survivability of this team, allowing her to take most of the damage, and a very valuable mechanic that distributes damage between all members. Of course, some switches can be made in this team. Tingyan will be able to switch for Pela for a standard hyper carry comp, or switch in for Bronya if you don't have her, and you're going to be able to switch Fushuan for Luocha/Lynx. Whatever switches you make, what matters most is what blessings you get that can make this team strong. Let's talk about some general tips. Your goal in this path is to gain at least 3 preservation blessings and 3 elation blessings to activate both of the resonance interplays. These are super powerful, and they give your team that extra defense and path energy regen, allowing you to have really high uptime on your path resonance. For your preservation blessings, anything that gives you shields or quake damage will be valuable, and for the elation blessings, you don't need to go overboard on them. Just look for the gray blessings that give more damage or more energy for the team. In the destruction path, we are going to be able to fight lots of elite enemies, and you want to take advantage of this as JINGLIU is a very strong DPS herself, able to use her from start to finish, and is perfect with dealing with the elite domains. When you defeat these domains, you are going to receive tons of gold blessings, and you want to look for these specific powerful ones. The first one is the regression inequality of annihilation. When you receive damage, they are equally distributed among all allies, and you want to enhance this as you take less damage. In combination with Fushuan, this can really mitigate the damage taken. Any gold blessings that apply disassociation, as this is really strong for a character like JINGLIU, because remember that she's an ice character, and disassociation can add a tremendous amount of extra damage and not allowing those smaller enemies to take action. Getting some gold hunt blessings giving critical boost or advancing your action by 100% is also a priority. Now for some blue blessings, and these are quite important as well. Auspicious Star is going to be a top tier blessing for gaining back your ultimate when she defeats an enemy. This is going to allow JINGLIU to remain in the buff state for a longer period of time, potentially giving you 100% uptime on this. And you also want to enhance this blessing as it gives you 100% to your energy. Fighting Spirit Stacks blessings and defense increase blessings will also be a priority. Crit damage buffs from preservation and hunt paths will also be really strong for JINGLIU's personal damage, and that's going to be your blessing priority. Look for strong destruction and preservation blessings for more survivability as well as damage, and then remembrance and hunt path for that extra boost of damage. Let's talk about the pros of this setup. You have a nice balance of survivability and damage output, great for dealing with the smaller swarm. The path resonance provides great AoE damage, and that very important defense shred, allowing your JINGLIU to dish out very strong damage. If you have disassociation, this is going to boost your damage to another level, hitting extremely high numbers. The team itself is flexible and can work with different units as well. The most important unit is going to be Bronya, but as long as you have another buffer or debuffer and a strong support, this is going to work just fine. Some cons is you really need to get lucky with defensive blessings such as Fighting Spirit, as it is the most important things for surviving. Fighting Spirit just gives you so much defense and is going to allow you to tank enemy hits, and since the smaller swarm aren't going to be frozen for most of the time, they're going to be able to chip your shield, and you want that shield to protect your team for the strong hits. Other than that though, this is really the only weakness. This is a strong and safe choice for the Swarm 5. The next team is going to take a much different route and playstyle of JINGLIU. On to our next team, we have JINGLIU Remembrance, fully utilizing dissociation to its max capabilities and ultimately dealing incredible AoE and single target damage. Now, Hirion is absolutely goated. He has a full run available here to guide you guys all the way from start till finish. Onto the team, he utilizes JINGLIU, Bronya, Luocha, and Gepard. Gepard having a very strong shield and decent uptime on it, but a switch can be made with Gepard, and a strong choice is going to be March 7th. This is because March 7th 7th is very strong for dissociation, and she freezes all enemies. So let's talk about the playstyle of this team. It wants to freeze the enemy first with your path resonance and then applying disassociation onto the enemy. In the start, we're going to buff Jingliu and Bronya to use our skill in combination with dissociation to deal a massive nuke of damage. Now the great thing about this mechanic is almost everyone can deal damage. It only takes another hit of any sort of damage, whether that is your basic attack, skill, or ultimate, to remove dissociation. And the removal of dissociation is really strong. Some general tips about the remembrance path is it is able to copy a domain to an adjacent separate domain. And to abuse this, we can do two things: to take either elite bosses to get lots of gold blessings, or to keep copying the rewards and adventure domains. Both are really strong, and you could either do a combination of both or one of the other strategy. The most important thing is to get certain blessings. In the setup, Jingliu, while doing decent damage herself, isn't doing the majority of it. The huge damage number is coming from the removal of dissociation, so we want blessings that can take this to the max. First, we want to get the total recall resonance formation. This allows us to decrease enemies' chance to resist frozen by 100%, and then gain the first love once more resonance formation, giving us more energy at the start of battle and 5% energy when we freeze an enemy. This is to get good uptime on our path resonance. From here, we want the resonance interplay faces places, giving us all type res when dispelled or resisted by enemy targets, and this synergizes with the dissociation path heavily, so getting this will be a strong damage bonus. Resonance interplay landscape in the mist is also really strong for decreasing enemy speed by 15%. That's enough on the path itself. Let's talk about gold blessing priority. So you want as many of the gold remembrance blessings. Fully, Innocence, and Reticence are highly important. If you can't obtain all three, you should prioritize Reticence to allow any of your party members to freeze with any attack in 6 hits, and then Innocence to apply dissociation on the enemy when you weakness break them. You're also going to want a few destruction blessings. Damage distribution is a high priority. Get this as soon as possible. And you also want fighting spirit blessings, as it's just going to increase the survivability of your team, and it's going to allow for a safer playstyle. And that's pretty much it for the gold blessings. This team actually requires very specific blue blessings that we want to make this team function. The first one is removing dissociation on hit and deal 150% damage in pairing with dizziness, which increases the damage taken by enemies with dissociation by 36%. This is what's going to deal that high damage. You could also get Shudder, which applies ice weakness onto the enemy for 2 turns. This is going to be nice for Jingliu herself and your other ice characters. And then from here, just gain as many remembrance blessings, prioritizing the ones that freeze enemies. After you get all the important blue blessings, you just want to get defense blessings, as you're already going to deal so much damage. And I would say ignore all of the crit damage buffs, as Jingliu herself isn't doing as much of the damage. So let's talk about the pros of this setup. You're getting extremely high DPS output coming from dissociation, plus Jingliu's personal damage. Freeze just allows the enemies not be able to move, which is always a plus. You're decreasing their speed, slowing them down in the action order. Survivability is pretty decent. You're almost never getting hit by the smaller swarm, so you're tanking the enemy's heavy hits from the main boss, which Jabbar's shield can definitely take a beating from, and March's shield is able to as well. But let's talk about the cons though, and it's the setup. It's going to take some RNG to get the blessings that you really want as early as you can. Jingliu herself can deal with the first plane well, but if you aren't getting those needed blessings before the second plane boss, the damage of this team will be pretty minuscule compared to the HP pools of elite enemies, because you're not getting as many personal damage buffs for Jingliu, such as the ones in the other paths. So my advice is, if you are playing this team and you aren't getting any dissociation blessings early on, you either want to try to copy the adventure or reward domains and focus on defensive blessings as much as you can, or just restart your run. Other than that, guys, this team is awesome. Great for dealing with the swarm, but let's take a look at a team for all the sweaty gamers. On to our next team, we have JINGLIU Propagation. This is a team for the people that want to speedrun the Swarm 5 and is a great team with dealing with the normal simulated universe. So what this team does is it focuses a lot on damage output and makes JINGLIU herself gain a lot of crit damage buffs, as well as giving her survivability. The path gives JINGLIU Metamorphosis. When she uses a skill point, she's going to ignore 10% of all type res, stacking up to 2 times, and the Resonance Formation gives her a ton of damage damage, increasing her damage by 40%. Jingliu will also be able to cause spores to burst instantly. Now the team has two main damage sources. It's going to come from Jingliu herself and a powerful mechanic spores. In combination, this can hit insane numbers up to 3 million. When playing in the propagation path, there are some things you need to prioritize. First is we want to take as many swarm domains from the path's passives and active effects. And then we want to get all 3 resonance formations for the propagation path, which will be relatively easy as you're getting tons of swarm domains. And you want to activate both resonance interplays. We want at least 3 preservation blessings and 3 destruction blessings to gain a ton of defensive buffs to Jingliu, nullifying all damage, and then giving us a shield equal to 60% of our max HP, lasting for 3 turns. And the great thing is, whichever preservation and destruction blessings are going to be fine. Even the gray blessings work, but if you can gain any ones that give more defense or give you shields, those will be the best. After that, onto some blessing priorities though. To really make this setup work, we want 2 certain gold blessings from the propagation path, Spore Discharge and Fungal Pustule, to apply spores to all enemies when we consume a skill, and then apply 2 more when we recover a skill point. Scythe Limbs is also a good pick too, increasing your crit damage by 40% and then 80% at 2 stacks. This is a really good choice, but prioritize the first 2 as those will be the highest damage upgrade. From here, the gold destruction blessing that distributes damage will be a nice pick if you don't have Fushuan. If you do, then you can skip on this one. And to increase your damage, I would also look for remembrance blessings, applying dissociation and applying ice weakness onto the enemies. And now we can get into some blue blessings that are really strong. First is the Lytic Enzyme, increasing the burst damage of spores and spreading the ones that the enemies were carrying to adjacent enemies. And you really want this one here, which increases the number of times spores can be spread by 2 times. You can get other ones after, but avoid the basic attack ones as they won't really benefit the team, as Jingliu doesn't really use her basic attacks. So the pros of this team is you're gonna get a high damage ceiling, definitely beating out most teams in terms of clear time. The path just gives Jingliu a huge damage buff, and she is able to utilize and spread spores pretty efficiently. There is decent survivability. The resonance interplay nullifies all damage except dot damage. Another thing is this is a team that is strong all the way. You can clear with this team from start till finish without any DPS swaps or support swaps, and it's going to be able to wipe out elite bosses and the swarm domains. The cons are it's not going to be available to everyone. If you haven't beat difficulty 5 before and completed all the missions, the propagation path won't be available. You should also worry about one-shots and how you want to play the team, saving your resonance path when you need it and having decent members of your party protecting your team still. And also, this is an expensive setup. Having Bronya, Fushuan, and Silverwolf, which ends up being 4 5-stars. Now you can definitely switch Silverwolf for Tingyun. Just remember that you need to get that remembrance blessing that applies ice weakness, or fight a specific boss at the end of the first plane to apply ice weakness onto the swarm. But other than that, guys, this is a very strong team, and good luck to all the speedrunners out there. On to the next team, we have the Blade and Jingliu duo DPS comp. The team is definitely rising in popularity, especially in the MOC, and if you want to know about the deeper specifics on this team, you can check out our last video that shows just how this team works. But onto the swarm variation, we are using the destruction path again to give us just strong general survivability and for its nice debuff as well. Something that is going to be prevalent in this team is the use of elation blessings. The main reason for that is because Blade is here and he has a follow-up attack, and his follow-up attack is going to be doing a lot of damage. Now again, Jingliu and Blade have very nice synergy as she can charge up Blade stacks, and in addition, the elation path, when having specific blessing, increases the total damage of the team and can buff up Jingliu's personal damage quite a bit. The rest of the team could be the standard Jingliu team with Jingliu, Blade, Bronya, and a sustain unit, but another character that we are utilizing for this team is March 7th, and she can play a huge role. March is able to deal her own follow-up attack, and as she does this, she's not only putting energy into her own ultimate, but she is also putting energy into the path resonance. As it says, whenever you use a follow-up attack, it will gain energy. We're gonna head into some general tips about this setup, and first you want to utilize the amount of gold blessings that you could get from elite domains once again. This team utilizes very specific elation and destruction blessings that you'll definitely need a few tries to get the right ones. So what your goal is for this setup is you need to get 3 elation blessings and 3 preservation blessings. This will allow you to get both resonance interplays, getting more energy when you use a follow-up attack, and give you a strong shield. Early on in your runs, you're going to look for as many blue and gray destruction blessings while also looking for the strong elation blessings. So onto some gold blessing priorities. Having during the early stages of your runs, you're going to look for fighting spirit stack blessings to give you more defense and attack. You're going to look for the damage distribution one as it's going to be quite good. If you can also pick up Champion's Dinner, Cat's Cradle, turning all of your ultimates into follow-up attacks, increasing their damage as well by 15%. This is going to be a nice damage buff early on. Later in your runs, you're going to have a lot of destruction blessings and all 3 resonance formations, and you're going to try to get at least 15 destruction blessings. And some specific blue blessings that you want is Indictive Depth of Field. This heavily reduces the damage taken, enabling your blade to tank lots of hits. The Destruction Flare is a very strong one, as you will be lower than 50% health most of the time, increasing your damage. If you're running this setup without a healer, which can be done, the Doctor of Love will be the best bet, giving you HP when you deal a follow-up attack. And for some preservation blessings, you don't really need the gold ones, so you can just look for the ones that give you extra shield or more defense per preservation blessing. So the pros of running this specific team is extremely good survivability. The damage that is done by the swarm is mitigated so much from the destruction path. Fighting spirit stacks give you so much extra defense and attack. Your shield from March is going to be really powerful because of this, as she gets so much defense. Resonance uptime is a huge bonus. You are able to essentially get your resonance back pretty fast and apply it multiple times, as if you are below 35% health, it will deal another resonance with no cost. The interplays synergize really well with this path and team, and I also think in your 4 spot, Clara could possibly work here, just for this mono follow-up team that you can get even faster uptime on everything. Let's talk about some cons though. You aren't going to hit as hard. This is a team that wants to deal follow-up damage, which means you are waiting for them to attack you, and you're waiting for your resonance to come back to dish out more damage with that defense shred, and that's going to definitely take longer in terms of clear time. This isn't going to hit amazing numbers. You aren't going to see the 3 million damage coming from JINGLIU like the last team. It's a very different playstyle, but I gotta say, apart from all this, it's pretty rewarding if you like the duo DPS playstyle and want that blade in your JINGLIU team. And I also want to mention that there is an extremely similar showcase with Pela and Herda that also use elation and destruction blessings. Check it out on this guy's channel. He's amazing. Again, this is an awesome team and you should use it if you have access to it. On to the last team in our list. If you want JINGLIU to have huge raw damage coming from herself and for her to always remain in her buff state, having 100% uptime, you're really gonna like this team. This is the JINGLIU Hunt setup, and again showcased by Harryon. This team focuses on buffing up JINGLIU to her max capabilities for her own raw personal damage by increasing her crit damage by immense amounts. Onto the team though, this team features JINGLIU Pela for her AoE defense shred, Bronya, and Luocha. Some switches can definitely be made. Pela can be switched out for Tingyun for a standard hypercarry comp, or can even be switched out for Bronya. Luocha can be switched out for Fushuan, or another pick could be Lynx. Onto some general tips. When you play this path, there are a lot of Trotter domains, and you want to take advantage of them because they give so much extra passives like enhanced blessings, so you're saving a lot of credits, and they also give extra blessings. You also want to hold on to the credits until the end because there is an extremely strong curio. The cavity system model trades all of your credits for crit damage. For every 100, you will get 24% crit damage, and you can scale this as high as you want. So saving as much as you can until you get this curio will be a huge damage increase. But if you don't, it will still be fine, and you might be able to snag a robe, giving you extra damage for every 100 credits currently in your inventory. And if you don't get that, you can enhance your remaining blessings if you haven't already, and it'll still be a win-win. And probably the most important tip is to focus on defense. While this team has amazing damage uptime, the moment you are in your downtime where you have a bunch of cooldowns and you don't have your ultimates, you are going to be extremely vulnerable. So your goal for this setup is to find as many crit boost blessings from the hunt path while simultaneously looking for specific defensive blessings. We are aiming to activate the resonance interplays with the abundance to restore our HP when we defeat an enemy. If you also come across some fighting spirit stacks blessings, these are going to be quite nice, and just try to get the gold ones or a few blue blue ones, as your gray hunt blessings are really important. Let's look at specific blessing priorities. Any of the hunt blessings that give extra crit boost blessings will be the safest option. But the moment you see Auspicious Star, this is the blessing you really want. This is an extremely good one for Jingliu, allowing you to always be in her buff state. If you aren't able to get that one, in the hunt path we also get tons of blessings that give energy and multiple turns, so those could be a good option as well. Let's talk about the pros of this team. First, we are getting high damage output. We are essentially always attacking the enemy utilizing the hunt path blessings. There's lots of speed, the signature definition of the hunt path. We're gonna get multiple turns, so if you don't have access to Bronya, this team will be great as the hunt path will give those multiple turns and you don't really need lots of crit damage buffs. So if you don't have Bronya, that is going to be just fine. Something that's also really strong about the setup is weakness break. The smaller swarm will most likely not be able to move, which is very strong, mitigating a lot of the damage that you could have taken from those guys. But let's talk about the weaknesses though. This is obviously a glass cannon team. Trading all of your defensive capabilities to maximize your damage output, this team, if not played right, can be susceptible to one-shots and weak to combos. So you're really relying on your team to try to get those weakness breaks from the smaller swarm and try to defeat those smaller enemies before they make a move. Even with defensive blessings, you're going to feel pretty weak, so I recommend you calculate before you make a move. A lot of the times in the hunt path, people rush their decision, but in reality, you should actually be taking your time with this setup. Otherwise, guys, this is an awesome team. If you want to see Jingliu herself do the damage and not want to play around the other mechanics in the Swarm Disaster, this is the team for you. I want to mention Hyrion again has a full run of this, so go check it out if you want that raw gameplay. That's gonna be it for the top 5 best Jingliu teams for Swarm Disaster. Make sure you guys go to twitch.tv/KevJu so you can possibly receive your free express supply. I'm gonna be handing them out in a marble race at the start of next stream, and stay tuned for the next top 5 or 10. See you then, gamers.